I described the car in episode 4 of First Times. The driving lesson in the parking lot in Hoboken, the specific quality of freedom and loneliness that the car produces, the Levittown that the car makes possible. What happens to the car between 1949 and 2026? It becomes ubiquitous in a way that 1949, despite the car's obvious trajectory, cannot fully anticipate. In 1949, approximately 26 million cars in the United States. In 2026, approximately 285 million registered vehicles. More than 10 times as many. For a country whose population grows from approximately 150 million to approximately 335 million, population more than doubled, cars more than tenfolded. The car became not just transportation, the car became infrastructure. American cities between 1949 and 2026 are designed around the car. Highways are built. The Interstate Highway System, authorized in 1956, covering approximately 47,000 miles, connecting cities, reshaping the geography of American daily life. The suburb I described, Levittown, is the template for enormous expansion. American suburban geography is built on the assumption of the car. Every house with a garage, every commercial zone designed around parking. The specific walking hostel design of a place built for driving. This is the consequence of the car's ubiquity that I partially predicted and could not fully see. Not just that people have cars, but that the physical space of the country is redesigned for cars, and that the redesign makes the car necessary for daily life in a way that creates a dependency. You cannot easily not have a car if you live in a suburb, because the suburb was designed for cars. The car creates the conditions that make the car necessary. And then, the device showed me something that is just beginning to be imaginable in 2026. The electric car. Not new as a concept. Electric cars existed before gasoline cars, at the beginning of the automobile era. But in 2026, electric cars are becoming significant, driven by the specific problem of what the gasoline car has been producing for 70 years. The problem I described when I learned to drive. The exhaust, the smell, the carbon. 70 years of millions of cars burning gasoline. The device showed me. This is one of the primary contributors to the warming of the planet, which is a subject I will not fully address here, but which the device showed me is a significant and concerning feature of 2026. The car that was freedom is also, at scale, cost. I want to describe what the people of 1949 imagine about the future, because the imagining is instructive. The science fiction of 1949, the specific dreams and fears about what technology will become, has a specific character. It imagines flying cars. The future of transportation, in the science fiction of this era, is the flying car, the personal aircraft, the specific democratization of aviation at the level of the individual vehicle. You drive your flying car to work. You park it on the roof. The sky is full of personal flying cars. This has not happened. In 2026, there are no flying cars. There are experiments with urban air mobility, small aircraft, drones, various attempts to create something like the flying car. But the sky is not full of personal aircraft. The car remains on the ground. The science fiction of 1949 also imagines nuclear power as the solution to all energy problems. The atom, the same atom whose fission produces the bomb, will produce limitless clean energy. Nuclear power will be too cheap to meter. Every city will have its nuclear power plant. The energy problem will be solved. This is partially correct. Nuclear power plants exist and produce a significant portion of the world's electricity in 2026. But they are not too cheap to meter. They are expensive. They produce radioactive waste that must be stored for thousands of years. The specific accidents, 3 Mile Island in 1979, Chernobyl in 1986, Fukushima in 2011, demonstrate that nuclear power has failure modes that the optimism of 1949 did not adequately account for. The dream of limitless, clean nuclear energy, still a dream in a complicated and contested form in 2026. What 1949 did not imagine, the internet, the smartphone, the specific way that information technology, not energy technology, not transportation technology, would be the transforming technology of the second half of the 20th century. The future that came is not the future that was imagined. It is stranger, more useful in some ways, different in the ways that matter. I want to give you a quick list, not the deep analysis, the quick astonishment of specific facts from the device, the things that made me stop and read again to make sure I had understood correctly. The microwave oven, a device that cooks food using microwave radiation, which excites water molecules in the food and generates heat from within the food rather than from a heat source outside it. Developed from radar technology, introduced for home use in the 1960s. A radar that cooks soup. The same technology that tracks aircraft in wartime heats dinner in peacetime. The Velcro, a fastening material invented by a Swiss engineer in the 1940s, inspired by the way burdock burrs stick to fabric, patented in 1955, widely used in 2026. Not dramatic, but everywhere. On shoes, on children's clothing, on medical devices. The burdock burr, translated into a product. The GPS. The global positioning system, the system that told the device where it was, that produced the blue dot on the map that was me. A network of satellites orbiting the Earth, transmitting signals, allowing any device with a receiver to calculate its exact position on the Earth's surface. The blue dot was me. The satellites knew where I was. Approximately 30 satellites orbiting at about 20,000 kilometers altitude, making this possible. The Post-it note. A small adhesive note that sticks lightly to surfaces and can be removed and repositioned without leaving a mark. Invented by 3M, a company whose name I recognize from adhesive tape, in 1974. A solution to a problem that nobody knew they had until the solution was available. Small adhesive notes that can be repositioned. By 2026, offices everywhere are covered in them. The Walkman, a personal cassette player, a portable device for playing recorded music through headphones, introduced in 1979 by Sony, a Japanese electronics company. I want to note, the Walkman is described in the device as the predecessor of the headphone-based personal music experience that the AirPods represent. The specific experience I described in episode 10, Parker in my ears while walking through the city, has a precursor in the Walkman, which had a precursor in earlier portable radios. The technology for private ambulatory music listening began with the Walkman in 1979. The AirPods arrived in 2016. The experience I described, 37 years in development from the Walkman. I want to say something about what has not changed, because the list of what has changed can produce a false impression of total transformation. Everything has not changed. Hunger. In 2026, approximately 700 million people globally experience food insecurity, defined as not having reliable access to sufficient food. More people on Earth than exist in 1949 combined go to bed uncertain whether they will eat adequately tomorrow. The technology of food production has increased enormously. More food is produced per acre per person than in 1949. The distribution of the food is the problem that technology has not solved. More food, unequal distribution. The hunger remains. War. In 2026, multiple armed conflicts are ongoing in various parts of the world. The specific form of war has changed. The scale of the largest conflicts has been contained, possibly by nuclear deterrence, possibly by international institutions. But war has not ended. People are still killing each other for territory and resources and ideology. The war that ended in 1945 was called the War to End All Wars by people in 1918, and it was not. The one that ended in 1945 did not end them either. Loneliness. This one surprised me. The device showed me research suggesting that loneliness, the specific subjective experience of feeling isolated and disconnected, is as prevalent or more prevalent in 2026 than in 1949. Despite the internet, despite the smartphones, despite the 5 billion devices that connect everyone to everyone at all times, despite constant reachability. Loneliness. The technology that promises connection does not automatically produce connection. Human connection, the kind that matters, the specific quality of being known by someone, of being in the room with someone who receives rather than waits. That kind of connection does not scale with the technology. Manny's is not on the internet. Manny's is not replaceable by the internet. The coffee that comes without asking, the ordinary things. I want to give you a few more moments of the specific humor that accurate prediction produces. People will stand in lines at airports for hours, willingly, to board aircraft to destinations they are traveling to voluntarily for pleasure, having paid for the privilege. And they will complain the entire time that the lines are too long and the airline has lost their luggage. This is because flying has become ordinary. The extraordinary thing has become ordinary enough to be complained about. People will carry the most powerful communication and information device ever created in their pocket and use it primarily to look at photographs of food that other people have eaten, video recordings of cats, and brief messages from acquaintances. I want to be clear. I am not criticizing this. Looking at photographs of other people's food and videos of cats is a perfectly reasonable thing to do with unprecedented power. It is simply not what 1949 would have predicted for the endpoint of the ENIAC. People in 2026 will be nostalgic for the simplicity of 1949. They will describe 1949 as simpler times. They will look back at the era I am in with a kind of wistful longing for a world before the smartphone, before the internet, before the specific complexity of being connected to everything at all times. I want to note, 1949 is not simpler. 1949 is the year of the bomb and the lobotomy Nobel Prize, and more doctors smoke Camels, and the clubs on 52nd Street closing, and the women leaving the factories, and Robinson playing baseball under death threats. 1949 is not simpler. 1949 is different. The simplicity they will miss is the simplicity of not being the person in 1949, of looking at 1949 from 2026 with the distance that makes its textures seem smooth and its complications seem distant. From inside 1949, not simpler. From inside any era, not simpler. Of everything the device showed me about the technological development between 1949 and 2026, one thing exceeded my capacity to have expected it the most. It is not the moon. It is not the internet. It is the Human Genome Project. In 2003, scientists complete the mapping of the human genome, the complete sequence of human DNA. The approximately 3 billion base pairs that constitute the genetic instruction set for making a human being, read, cataloged, understood at the level of the specific sequence. Why does this exceed my expectations more than the moon? Because the moon is visible. I can look at the moon from my window every clear night. I can imagine, with difficulty, but with the imagination engaged, what it would be to walk on it. The moon is there, in the sky, large and specific and imaginable. The human genome is inside me. It has been inside me my entire life. Every cell of my body contains the complete instruction set for making me, the specific 3 billion letter code that says, make this bone structure, this eye color, this height, this specific susceptibility to certain conditions, and this specific resistance to others. Make Vera Lane. The code that makes me has always been in me. And in 2003, 54 years from now, human beings will read it. Not just know it exists, read it, the actual sequence, every letter. The specific instruction that says, Vera Lane's eyes are brown. Not that sentence specifically. More like the chemical version of that sentence, the actual coded instruction at the molecular level. We will read the language of life. I have been sitting with this for longer than anything else from the device. We will read the language of life. I have been describing technological change for the better part of an hour, and I want to say what I think about it. First, the change is real. The distance between 1949 and 2026 is genuinely extraordinary. Not in the science fiction sense of the flying car, in the more interesting and more accurate sense of things that nobody predicted coming to exist: the internet, the smartphone, the genome. Second, the change is uneven. Every technology I described has a distribution problem. The vaccines go to some people and not others. The smartphones are affordable to some and not others. The internet is accessible to some and not others. The Genome Project will produce treatments that are affordable to some and not others. The technology advances. The access advances more slowly. Third, some things don't change. And the things that don't change are often the things that mattered most. The loneliness, the hunger, the war. The specific quality of one person being fully present with another person, which is not technologized, which does not scale, which requires the same thing in 2026 that it requires in 1949. A person choosing to be with another person, fully, without managing. The things that don't change remind me. Technology is the context for human life, not the content. The content is, what do you do with the context? What do you make of the ordinary moments that the context contains? I have been answering this question all year. The answer is the same with or without the device. Look at things. Let them be what they are. The geranium is still red, whether the refrigerator knows it or not. Come back for the next special episode. I want to talk about the things we were confident about in 1949 that were simply wrong. Not just in medicine, across the board. The confident errors, the things that the most educated, most informed, most well-intentioned people of this era believed with certainty that will look, from 2026, like the lobotomy Nobel Prize. And some things we were right about, against the odds, and some things nobody knew were about to change everything. Come back.